All right, finally, a little bit of talent and intelligence on the other side of the screen from me, Chris Honorado, and sitting in for Sean Bagnardi on Honorado and Bagnardi is Ashley Miller. Hey, Ash.
Hey, what's up? I'm home.
Good to have you here to help me out here as Bags is on vacation. Shawnee will be back once we get to football season that first week in September. But Ash is helping us out this week, and we've got a lot to get to on today's show as the Yankees continue to climb those standings into a playoff spot and looking like a team that really may be reckoned with come October as the Mets continue their free fall. And some interesting words from New York Giants owner John Mara at training camp in his kind of State of the Giants address, if you will, and maybe putting a little bit of pressure on his young quarterback, but also his general manager. We'll get into all that on today's show. Hang out. You're watching Honorado and Bagnardi.
This is Honorado and Bagnardi, brought to you by Alpha House.
Yes, we are indeed brought to you by Alpenhaus. Again, Chris Honorado, Ashley Miller sitting in for Sean Bagnardi on Honorado and Bagnardi. We'll get to some fun stuff on today's show as well. We took a trip to my home state of New Jersey, to my hometown, to which I had not been in nearly 8 years. We kind of did the math on that, and I had to school some of my friends' kids in horse. Yeah. So we'll show you that video, which is kind of funny. But let's get into the meat of what's happening in the sports world here as we hit the end of August and then the home stretch really of the Major League Baseball season. And that is what the New York Yankees have been able to do here, bucking everything I've said this year about this team, that I just did not think they'd make the playoffs. And I didn't then think they'd be successful once they got to the postseason, if they were there, actually. But here they are, Ash, and they're playing some really good baseball. Among everything they've done well, I think it's the pitching that's impressed me the most.
Yeah, and I think we're 30 plus 40 games out from the season, and they're in the heat of a playoff race for that second wild card spot. It's not even a playoff race yet because we're not close enough to the playoffs. The interesting thing to me is how they've done it with so many injuries. We talk about how guys have spent time on the COVID list, the injured list. They've done it without Severino. I think they've exceeded expectations in that regard, but so many times their hitting has been guys that I don't think, aside from Judge getting hot recently, guys that, have played kind of just support roles who are keeping this team where they are right now, which is a place I didn't think they would be either at this point in the season. A month ago, if you had told me they were going to take over the second wild card spot, I don't think I would have believed you.
Yeah, I mean, the number of outfielders they've used to sustain either the Giancarlo Stanton, Clint Frazier injuries or the Aaron Judge trip to the COVID list. Remember, Aaron Hicks has been out forever as well. This is a team that, for all the criticism that Aaron Boone, but really I think more so Brian Cashman received through the struggles of this season, kudos to the way they've found a way to make this work and to motivate guys when they're called up, make them productive, but to motivate guys, Ash, who had been replaced by some of these other players. So, look, we go through cycles every season, right? Where a team struggles, who do we blame? Let's get on them really hard, and we did with Cashman and Boone. But now, for the most part, they're finding ways to win. They're doing it with lesser than household names, certainly. And I think when fully healthy and the real complement to players, remember, Gleyber Torres is not a shortstop every night for this team. So they will presumably get even better as the health continues to come along for this group.
Yeah, and I sort of wonder, will they get better? I'm always like, okay, you have a good thing, keep a good thing going. And Aaron Judge got hot. You see him here. But guys like Velasquez, who have gotten called up, and it's been so cool to see him shine. Gary Sanchez spent a huge amount of time on the COVID list. And you know how I feel about Gary Sanchez. I'll take Kyle Higashioka every day of the week. Garrett Cole spent time on the COVID list. They have had significant players spend time on the IL or the COVID list, but these are also guys who have been like kind of wishy-washy. Gary Sanchez to me has not performed as he should have, or as expectations have been set after that crazy rookie year that he had. But there are guys doing things. We knew Anthony Rizzo was going to be good, and I think Brian Cashman made great moves by bringing in Rizzo and Gallo. And Gallo, yes, he strikes out a lot, but we saw the power that he can provide to that right field, that short right field in Yankee Stadium. So I think he did all the right things, but he's also looks pretty smart in terms of guys like Velasquez, who you bring up from the minor league system, who again are making him look like, well, this wasn't just, good luck. This was us bringing players up and grooming them. And now guys are contributing. They'll play like they knew it was going to happen that way. I'm sure they didn't, but everything seems to be working in their favor right now.
Yeah, so they sweep Boston. They take over that top wild card spot as we sit here on a Thursday. If you're watching us on My 4 on Saturday night, how did things go with the Twins the first few games of that series? But at least I don't know, you're the Yankees fan out of the two of us here, Ash, and Bagnardi has told me all season long, this team is going to the playoffs, dude. Shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. How do you feel about this group? Let me spin you into October. You're in the playoffs. Can this team get to a World Series? I'm not going to ask you will they win the World Series, but the goal at this point is, after they had gotten so close a couple of times in the ALCS, can this team now get over the hump and actually get to the World Series?
I'm not there yet because I just haven't seen it. And this group doesn't look significantly different than years past, than the last 3 years that they've gotten close, but no cigar. I'm not there yet, only because we're in the heat of a race with Boston. Like, that team, if they get Chris Sale's back, if they get healthy too, they're still an interesting team. That lineup is stacked and they're underperforming now. But the series with the Twins, you mentioned it, is huge, only because right after that, you get 2 with your Braves, who is a really good team, and you get 4, I believe, against Oakland, and those are the guys you're going head-to-head with, along with Boston. So you got to get 3 of 4 from the Twins, if not sweep them, because of how important it is to set yourselves up for potentially losing a few games on the backside of it. Garrett Cole, big-time pitcher. You're going to have him throw 2 games in any postseason series. I'm just not convinced that the hitting is going to show up when it needs to. We've seen Aaron Judge go ice cold. We've seen Gary Sanchez go ice cold. They're starting to manufacture runs, but I'm not convinced that this is the way this team is built to work in the playoffs.
That's my biggest issue too. And I'm going to lean on what you just said there. We've seen it, and the roster to me hasn't changed enough to believe that the middle of the lineup, and really maybe even 2 through 6, I'll go to Judge hitting second if that's where he ends up hitting in October, that these guys are going to really make productive outs. Can you get a run in from third base with fewer than 2 outs? Can you move a guy over from second to third when there are fewer than 2 outs? Can you do those things that winning teams typically do? We had Tino Martinez on the show last week, and he said, look at the teams leading their division. These are teams that play smart baseball. They put the ball in play. They know how to run the bases. No team in baseball has made more outs on the bases than the Yankees this year. No team's hit into more double plays than the Yankees this year. Can the Yankees make productive outs when it matters most in October? I'm still not sold that will happen. Yeah,
and I think they are, like I said, they are now. They're starting to get to that. But it's DJ LeMahieu, and DJ LeMahieu has always been that guy. Yeah. It's guys like Rougned Odor, who, like, for as much as people knock him, he can manufacture runs. It's guys like Tyler Wade, who is a real danger on the base paths. That's not – okay, DJ, yes. But those other 2 guys are not names that at the beginning of the season I would have said, these guys are key to us manufacturing runs in a way that's not the long ball.
Yeah. Sam says quick exit if the Yankees do make the playoffs. We'll see. We'll get to Sam's Mets here momentarily as well. And something that Mets owner Steve Cohen tweeted. Cannot wait to get your reaction to that, Ash. You may already kind of know how I feel just based on my personality and the way I generally like ownership or coaches are speaking bluntly and honestly. That generally doesn't rub me the wrong way. We'll get to Cohen's comments specifically and to what the Mets are not currently doing. But as the Yankees come back to some health here, where are you now on, and I'll share my thoughts here first. I was ready to say Brian Cashman's the guy responsible, not Aaron
Yes.
Boone. And I think I was probably in the minority among the Yankees' broader base of fans that like this was Boone's problem. He was mismanaging the bullpen. They didn't seem to like his lineup structure. To me, it was a roster issue, not necessarily the way Boone managed the team. But look, if the Yankees make the playoffs, even if they don't win a series, if they make a wild card game and they don't win the wild card game, you could still see Boone go. But I think if you make the playoffs, you advance beyond the wild card game. I think it makes it difficult for the Steinbrenners to fire Aaron Boone. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so too. And I was also kind of on the Cashman bandwagon in terms of it's his problem. Listen, it's Aaron Boone's problem too, because I think there are so many times this year where we've been like, what is he do? What is going on? Whether it's pinch hitting, whether it's a guy that comes out of the bullpen, whether it's pulling Garrett Cole too early. It just seems like there are decisions that certainly are on Boone. But when you talk about this team hasn't won since 2009, well, that's not on Aaron Boone. Mm-hmm. That is on Brian Cashman. Mm. He is the one who has assembled that team for that stretch of time. So if we're going to talk about like this team can't win in big spots, this team can't get to the World Series, and we know the Yankees have different expectations than others. It's not even just getting to a World Series, it's winning a World Series. 2009 for Yankee fans is a long, long time ago.
Yeah, we have a diehard Yankees fan in the newsroom who's 24, I think. He's 24.
CJ, yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, 24, 25. And 09 is I don't even know that he would tell you he really kind of doesn't remember that at all, right? Do you remembering anything at the age of? I
think that might have been like one of the first that he, really remembers, but it's his own. And as a Yankee, like I've been spoiled by a lot more than that. And he's like, man, I need another. He's itching.
Yeah. All right. We're not going far. I'm a Bracer. It's been since 95. We're not going far. 30 seconds here. We're taking a quick timeout. When we come back on the other side, Steve Cohen tweets about his Mets. Cannot wait to get into some of this with Ash. You're watching Honorado and Bagnardi. Chris Honorado, Ashley Miller in for Shawnee today. Hang on.
Happiness is found in simple things. The sun on your face. Sharing laughs. At the campground. Getting wet. Relaxing together. The love of family. There's never been a better time to go outside and play. Alpenhaus Pool Spa Boat and RV. Bringing families together and creating memories since 1964.
And now, back to Honorado and Bagnardi. Brought to you by Alpenhaus.
And we're also partnered up with Novice Clothing Company, Marcella's Appliance Center, as well as Alpenhaus. And our thanks to all our sponsors here on Honorado and Bagnardi for teaming up with the only televised sports talk show in the Capital Region. In fact, it's the only one you'll really be able to watch on a news organization's social media channel. So we're pumped about that as we're a few months into this thing. Steve Cohen is almost into a full season of being the Mets owner. And he jumped on Twitter a few nights ago to voice his displeasure with, he didn't talk specifically about the Mets or a player. You would assume he's
who else is he talking about?
What's that?
I said, who else is he talking about?
No, could only be the Mets. And this is the tweet. It's hard to understand how professional hitters can be this unproductive. The best teams have a more disciplined approach. The slugging and OPS numbers don't lie. So now, is he going after the players? Is he going after his front office? Is he going after his manager? Is he going after the philosophy of his team? Or is he attacking the previous regime with the Mets ownership group that's no longer there, the GM Brody Van Wagenen, who's no longer there? Who is Steve Cohen really talking about here, Ash?
I'm not going to say Brody Van Wagenen. Listen, that ship has sailed. He's talking about everyone currently involved in the Mets organization, but I think it's a dig at your players. Like that tweet is meant to light a fire. You want your players to respond to that. You want your manager to respond. You want them all to be ticked off that you went out on Twitter and tweeted this about your own team and see if it can light a fire. I'm not going to say yes just because they won one game to snap a 5-game losing streak. Big deal. But we'll see in the next week how things go. And I think those guys they were like, yeah, we saw the tweet. Of course we did. Rojas said, yeah, we saw the tweet. Of course we did.
Yeah.
That's the point of a tweet, for people to see it and for you to light a little bit of a fire under your team.
This is equivalent to a manager going out and getting thrown out of a game for the sake of getting thrown out of a game, hoping that, like you said, it sparks something in their team. Or it's equivalent to Steve Cohen going into the locker room, into the clubhouse, throwing some chairs, making it known that he is upset. I don't want that happening. That's very Jerry Jones for me. I don't mind this, though. You own the team. You paid a lot of money for this team. You gave Francisco Lindor a huge contract. You then made a deadline deal to get somebody like Javier Baez. I'm not saying these are smart decisions. That can be a whole another conversation. My point is, you're Steve Cohen. You have ownership of this situation, and I don't mind you kind of voicing your displeasure. The problem is, I don't know that it's all that effective. I don't know that laying blame like this is going to be all that effective for a Mets team that, again, I just don't think roster-wise is all that talented. Like Michael Conforto is going to be a free agent at the end of the year. The New York Mets are not going to offer him a contract of any sort. So he hasn't lived up to his expectations. Bags and I have talked about that on the show. So again, I just think this becomes a little more of a roster issue. Oh, and by the way, when the best pitcher in baseball is out for 2+ months, the way Jacob deGrom will be by the time he's actually on a mound, we think maybe a week or two into the month of September, like that hurts a team too. This isn't all about slugging and OPS.
Sure. But we saw Jacob deGrom's record year after year. He continued to win Cy Youngs despite the lack of production offensively. So this is a repetitive problem for the the bats of the Mets. They just haven't shown up when they need to. Like this guy, Jacob deGrom aside, he's the only reason they're winning games at points, because he's giving up 0 runs or 1 run. But he lost plenty of games when he gave up 1 run or 2 runs, which is absolutely absurd.
All right, Sam here says, unfortunately, the Mets are done. Owner paid $2 billion for a team and pays those high salaries of players. He can say what he wants. Injuries, yes, but team underperforming big time. They fell under 500 middle of the week. They got back to 60 and 60. I don't know that I feel like they're underperforming. To me, this was an 82-win team, 83-win team. So, Ash, if I said to you they're going to win 22 of their final 40 games, like that's believable.
I mean, sure, it's run of the mill. If you're going to tell me a team's going to go 500, okay, fine. You're not breaking any crazy news to me.
Yeah. And Toby says, wrong of a coach to go out his players. I mean, even if you're the owner, I don't know.
No.
You say no. Okay.
You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah,
we'll see if it works.
We'll see if it works.
Yeah, exactly. Hindsight's 20/20. But listen, the fact that anyone knows Steve Cohen's name, like, I think that it says all you need to know. The best owners, or the most well-known owners, Jerry Jones, Mark Cuban, Steve Cohen now, like, people only know owners because they do things that are a little out of the norm. All of those guys fit in that category. And if that's what you have to do to get your team to be successful, then so be it.
And I like ownerships who are passionate. Steve Ballmer, like, I don't know if there's a more passionate owner in sports than the owner of the Clippers. What I don't want is the owner getting heavily involved in personnel decisions.
Sure.
Hire good people who know baseball, who will make the smart recommendations to you. Hey, Steve, we think you should sign X, and then let Cohen decide. I want somebody who's passionate about winning, not passionate about being overly involved. Like, I don't want Steve Cohen being the general manager the way Jerry Jones is the general manager of the Cowboys. So I'm speaking from a fan base that has kind of an absent ownership with Liberty Media and the Atlanta Braves. Like, I would rather it be one single person or a small handful of people who are uberly passionate about trying to make a team a winner. And then you let the smart people who know the game do their job, but invest everything you can into it. Be passionate about it. That I love about Steve Cohen. I love that about Mark Cuban, Steve Ballmer. But I want your hands off most of the personnel decisions. So Steve Cohen's an emotional guy because he's a Mets fan. What you don't want here all of a sudden is Steve Cohen deciding, I'll handle the roster. I will figure this thing out.
And I'll be interested to see. Listen, I think, and it's not a secret, but that Francisco Lindor contract could make or break this team. If he doesn't perform even close to that contract, well, now you've hamstrung all kinds of money up in him, and you've now prevented yourself from potentially bringing in other stars and being able to pay a lot of guys a lot of money with one contract. And I'm not saying he has to be the best player in the league, but he's got to be a whole lot better than he is.
Yeah. And speaking of hamstrung, the guy who seemed to be kind of a throw-in to the Francisco Lindor trade, Carlos Carrasco, missed most of this year so far because of a hamstring injury. And I really thought, Ash, that we'd be blown away by Lindor because of the name in the trade. But I really thought that Carrasco might be the most valuable guy in that trade. And he just has not pitched well since coming off the injured list. We still haven't seen Noah Syndergaard. Taijuan Walker has been bad in the second half of the season after he made his first All-Star team. So it's all kind of just like this confluence now in the second half of the year where not only is the OPS and slugging struggling, the way Steve Cohen points out, but the pitching has not been very good either. It has not had Jacob deGrom to lean on and maybe build some momentum off his really good start. So the Mets are going wrong in all kinds of directions.
Yeah, it's funny because as much as we talked about the Yankees going right in so many ways, the Mets are going wrong in just the same ways. You know what I mean? Like they're not getting the guys that they need. Whereas like the Yankees bring up Luis Gil, and this guy's his first 3 starts doesn't give up a run. Like those kinds of things are the things that are going to make a difference. And the Mets don't have that right now.
Gary's buttering us up here. 2 brightest, knowledgeable sportscasters on TV today. Thanks, Gary. We appreciate that, man.
Gary. We hope
Send an email to management at Channel 13. Let's see if you can negotiate a contract for us. That'd be great. All right, when we get back here on Honorado and Bagnardi, John Mara held his kind of State of the Giants address, if you will, at training camp, the way he does every summer, in between preseason games 1 and 2. And some interesting comments that don't surprise, but I think reinforce everything we've been saying and feeling on this show about the young quarterback Daniel Jones and the time to win. John Mara says that time is now. More on that right after this on Honorado and Bagnardi.
Teams, athletes, organizations. We're transforming the custom apparel industry through product and purpose. Claim your crown.
At Marcella's Appliance Center, our commitment is to you, providing essential appliances that families depend on for cooking, refrigeration, cleaning, and sanitation, plus appliance repair. You can have peace of mind that Marcella's is here for you today and every day, like we have been since 1957, helping you make the right choice with trusted brands like Whirlpool, Maytag, KitchenAid, JennAir, and many more. Shop Marcella's Appliance Center in-store, online, or by phone. We're here for you.
And now, back to Honorado and Bagnardi. Brought to you by Alpin House.
All right, Ash. NFL training camps are in full swing. Obviously, we're already into the preseason. One quick comment here before we get into what's going on at Giants camp. Jeff says, yeah, it sure is, Jeff. Nice to have an intelligent, well thought out co-host, Ashley in.
Much better looking.
Well, there's no doubt about that. I didn't want to just jump to the, subjectivity of the obvious here.
I'll do it for you.
Okay, perfect. Good. Then I don't get called out by people. Yes, Ash in today for Shawnee, as Bags will be back for football season that first Thursday, which is September 9th. I think September 9th. We're not all that far away from the football season kicking off, and some interesting comments at Giants camp this past week by owner John Mara, who is in front of the microphone more than Steve Tisch ever is. He's at camp more than Steve Tisch, generally speaking, and Mara said the time is now, Ash, to win. that they have put the fan base through enough losing, and that if this team is going to be what he thinks it should be, 2021 is the year, and year 3 with Daniel Jones. What do you think about Mara's comments?
I think it's not all that different than what Steve Cohen said in a roundabout way, but it is a little bit more of a direct, not a bar, but a direct, he's speaking directly to Daniel Jones. I mean, he's saying, if we don't win this year, we're moving on from Daniel Jones. You're not moving on from Joe Judge. You're not moving on from the guys you just added to the roster and the rookies. You will move on from Daniel Jones if you don't make the playoffs this year, or at least win this year.
If you, yeah, but don't you think you have to make the playoffs? I mean, there's 17 games now. So if I said to you they finished 9-8, that's not good enough, right?
I think it might be. It might be.
Okay.
I think a winning record would go along, especially considering how bad that division has been. I mean, you had teams under 500 making the playoffs. If by some crazy coincidence you get a team like I think they can win the division. It's not even close, but you get a team like Washington that wins the division, yet somehow they're still 9-6, 8, anything like that, I think is going to probably save his job if he plays well.
I think that's it too. I think even maybe more so than the record. I mean, the record will be a big factor. Don't get me wrong, but I think Mara wants to see Daniel Jones really take that next step, right? We've given you all kinds of free agent options here. Kenny Galladay is one. They brought in Kyle Rudolph, who we've had on the show here. They've tried to shore up the O-line a little bit. Barkley's health is a real factor here, but I think Giants ownership feels like, listen, we're giving you the tools to be successful. Can you now go out and do it? So we want to see you play well, even maybe more so than the record itself. And look, if they don't win, or if ownership decides that, and maybe Joe Judge goes to John Mara and says, Daniel Jones not going to be the guy, right? Joe Judge wasn't there when they drafted Daniel Jones. Right. He didn't give the stamp of approval for Daniel Jones as this number 6 pick out of Duke. If Jones doesn't look like the guy in year 3, guess what? Dave Gettleman won't be the guy in the general manager's seat beyond this season either. I mean, they really are directly tied here. Jones' success is going to determine whether or not Dave Gettleman is there next year.
And especially listen, that move to go get Daniel Jones in the first round when they probably could have gotten him later in the first round, in the second round, they could have gotten him a lot later than they did. That move is almost equivalent to the Packers drafting up to get Jordan Love in the way that it was a reach. Not that, they weren't surpassing some veteran quarterback to go. Eli was on his way out, whatever. Yep. I just think that move was so controversial to begin with that you're right. It's all on Gettleman. That move was all on Gettleman and nobody else. So if this doesn't work, well, you've got to attach the two of them and they're either both out or they both stay.
John says 9-8 might be good enough for the Jets. Rookie quarterback, Zach Wilson, who had some flattering
if the Jets go 9-8, that would be a win as well.
There's no doubt about it. Zach Wilson with some flattering things to say about my guy, Aaron Rodgers. I like this here. I mean, this is the first part of the statement. I don't know, Adam. I love what you're saying after that, though. Cowboys will beat the Bucks by 10 to open the season. Woo! That early number, I'd have to look. I saw it around 7.5. This is a little while ago now. I wonder what it's sitting at now. Tampa favored. Micah Parsons, the next Jason Taylor. That's an interesting comp to me, only because Jason Taylor was a true hand in the ground D-end. Yep. Parsons might be the next, I'm not going to say Lawrence Taylor, but Parsons has a little bit of that in him. And I even think like he might be the next Derek Brooks as we're talking about the Bucks.
More linebacker.
I think sideline to sideline, Micah Parsons is going to be a terror in this league for a long time to come.
I mean, him falling to them, it was kind of like he just kept falling. I'm like, oh my God, he's gonna go to the Cowboys. As a Giants fan, it's brutal. I love Micah Parsons. No chance the Cowboys beat the Bucks by 10. No chance.
Will they beat the Bucks?
I don't think they beat them, but they're certainly not going to beat them by 10.
Dak Prescott, I know Mike McCarthy said probably won't see Dak in the preseason. Guy coming off an injury. Do you feel like you want to see a quarterback, especially coming off a leg injury
Right.
in the preseason, to know live competition, true game action, he's ready to go come September 12th. That actually would be September 9th.
No, I don't. I mean, if I'm a Cowboys fan, I don't want to see him because God forbid you snap your leg again in preseason. Get like that to me. I don't care about the preseason. I don't need to see him. I've seen what he can do. If the coaches and the training staff think he's healthy, I believe them. Let's wait until week 1.
The other school of thought is, yeah, he might get injured in the preseason, but he might get injured in week 2. What's the difference?
Yeah, and I get it. It's a game that's worth something. That's the difference.
That's exactly the difference. He's in there because winning this game actually matters.
Correct.
Winning a preseason game. I can see him in some live scrimmage stuff on the practice field. Plus, by the way, I mean, if you're watching Hard Knocks, Dak is dealing with an arm issue even on top of coming back from the leg injury. So I would give him all the time he needs. And I'll speak personally here as a Packers fan. Aaron Rodgers won't play in the preseason. He hadn't played in the preseason since 2018. I couldn't care less about it.
Yep.
Our guy Jay Pulatsky is on this thing here. Bucks -7 right now. So the line really hasn't moved much. Right. Dallas is interesting.
They are very,
thing is that defending Super Bowl champion team on that opening night generally plays pretty well.
Yeah, and I think I'm not saying we can't learn a lot about Dallas. Like a healthy Dak Prescott, and that team is really good. They're really good. And again, in a bad division, that team can win the division. This division for the last, it feels like 4 years, 5 years, has been so wide open, and teams have underachieved. It's not hard to go out and kind of surprise people, and I think the Cowboys can do that this year.
So how about this? No team in the NFC East has won back-to-back division titles since the Eagles won 4 straight from 2001 to 2004. So you've gone 15, 16 years here without a repeat winner.
Yep.
Woo.
It's unbelievable. Yeah. And there haven't been very many good teams of that bunch.
No. And if you look at the last time the Giants won it, it's been a decade. It's certainly their time if you believe in teams being due. We're talking about Micah Parsons. And Adam's saying here, he doesn't want to reach the LT status yet.
Yeah, it's not. We're not there yet. It's just a name to throw out.
But the point on the preseason injury here, remember Mark Sanchez, I don't want to, look, Dak Prescott, Mark Sanchez, Tony Romo, I'm not going to lump them all together, but Mark Sanchez got injured in a preseason game, and a lot of people were wondering, why is he still in the third quarter? And he had the AC joint injury, and then the Jets scrambled for a quarterback a little bit there. So I'm with you. The preseason, let the preseason determine who makes the roster at spots 50 to 53. Who are the practice squad guys? I know who my stars and starters are. I'm comfortable with what they're able to do in their career to this point. I don't need to see them on a preseason field.
Yeah, I think rookies are different, though. Like, I want to see, and I get it, you run the same risk of injury, but I want to see some of Trevor Lawrence. I want to see some Zach Wilson, Trey Lance. I want to see those guys in game situations that's not like, hey, he's wearing the red jersey, don't touch him in practice or in a scrimmage. I want to see people get after them and see what they're capable of. Because maybe in the case of like a Trey Lance, you're going to say, all right, let's start Jimmy Garoppolo or, whatever. Let's start. Maybe Justin Fields doesn't start. He probably does, but maybe he doesn't.
Yeah, maybe he doesn't. I don't know either on
Andy
that one.
Andy Dalton. We'll see.
But I would absolutely start Justin Fields. Toby's point in Miami. He's on Miami to have the best defense in the NFL. Interesting. Now they've kept everybody. They've kept everybody happy, right?
Yep.
You got a guy like Howard. Let's keep him happy. That's important, and they've done that to make sure that defense maybe has the potential Toby is talking about this upcoming season.
Speaking of defense, I mean, the Giants had their defense was so good last year. They've gotten better, I think, and that's more pressure on the offense. Like, they loaded up on defense last year, and the defense was what kept them in games. They couldn't score enough. So now it's like, all right, we've gotten you the defensive front. We're good. I don't think that they've done enough on the offensive line. That's just me. But they've done more on the offensive line, and they've given him, you already mentioned Galladay and Rudolph. They draft a guy like Kadarius Toney. Yep. They've given him options. If Saquon is healthy, there's no reason that this team shouldn't be better, much better than it was. And that's, again, it's all on the advancements or not advancements of Daniel Jones.
Will they finish with a winning record?
I'm going to say no. but that's me.
Because look, nobody goes 500 anymore that you've got 17 games, unless we're going to get into 8-8-1.
Yep. I'd say maybe a game under. I don't know.
Okay. I like Daniel Jones, and I've said it before on this show plenty of times, that I like Daniel Jones from a skill set standpoint. I think he can make the throws down the field. I like his mobility. Can't deny that he's able to run with the football when necessary.
Can't hold on to the ball when he runs.
But if he can't be boss, that's a thing that just makes me feel like maybe he doesn't oftentimes have pocket awareness, and that's why he loses the ball as much as he does. It isn't because he's over aggressive. It feels like he's careless.
Yep.
And I don't know that you get over something like that.
Yeah. And you said it's just awareness. Like, how do you get this deep in your football career and have no pocket awareness? Maybe you haven't been pressured in your life. And I'll go back to this too. I just think, like, I understand the David Cutcliffe thing. I get it. I understand the Manning connection, and that's why people want every quarterback he touches to be like the next Peyton Manning. I don't understand how everyone thinks that just because you're a Cutcliffe guy, that a quarterback from a not very good Duke team is going to come be good in the NFL, that a quarterback from a not very good UNC team like Mitch Trubisky is going to be good in the NFL. Duke and UNC are basketball schools. They're not football schools. They're bad football teams in the ACC. To me, you can't take a good quarterback from a bad team and it translates. We haven't seen it yet. I'm interested to see the first time it happens.
Okay. Like that.
Yeah,
when we come back here, can you take good NBA people and put them on a college basketball bench and win a lot of games? Are we into the idea of super teams in terms of coaching staffs in college basketball? Is that a winning formula? We'll talk about what's going on with Penny Hardaway and his Memphis staff next. And then I'll show you a little bit of horse video of me beating up on some kids in my hometown in Glen Rock, New Jersey. We're back on Honorado and Bagnardi right after this.
Happiness is found in simple things. The sun on your face, sharing laughs, at the campground, getting wet, relaxing together, the love of family. There's never been a better time to go outside and play. Alpenhaus Pool Spa Boat and RV, bringing families together and creating memories since 1964.
Teams, athletes, organizations. We're transforming the custom apparel industry through products and purpose. Claim your crown.
And now, back to Honorado and Bagnardi. Brought to you by Alpenhaus.
All right, back here on Honorado and Bagnardi. Alpenhaus novice Marcella's with us here supporting the show. And Ashley Miller in for Sean Bagnardi this week. Bags on a little vacay.
Your hair's very long in that intro.
What's that?
Your hair's very long in that intro.
Oh, I didn't notice. I'll go back and look at it.
Well,
this is recently cut.
Yep.
You know, we're only a couple weeks into this haircut. It'll get unruly. There's no doubt. You know that. Ash in for Shawnee, and the Bags man will be back for the first week of the NFL season as he's enjoying a little bit of time off right now, enjoying Aruba. Can't wait to hear about that trip. You and I went to New Jersey.
I was going to say, you took me to New Jersey, and Sean's in Aruba. Great, thanks.
Yeah, well, you know, I do what I can.
Yeah, we went to Hawaii. It's all good.
Yeah, we'll relive some of the moments from New Jersey, me beating up on an 8 and then 6-year-old twins in the game of horse. So stick around for that. Before we get to that, though, what do you make of what's happening at Memphis here? I'm interested just because these are NBA names that we grew up with, and now they're trying to take the college basketball world by storm. So I know people in the Capital Region be like, who cares about Memphis men's basketball? I get it. But when Penny Hardaway's the head coach, and when he's already hired Larry Brown as an assistant, and now just recently he brings on Rasheed Wallace, like, are you not interested? As Russell Crowe says in Gladiator, are you not entertained? I am. I cannot wait to see where this does or doesn't go. I think it's incredibly interesting what Penny Hardaway is trying to do. Let's talk about whether or not we think it's going to work, but on the surface, I think it's incredibly entertaining.
Yeah, it's entertaining. I don't know that it's whether it works or not is going to be because of this coaching staff. I mean, we knew he had the #1 recruiting class coming in. Was it this year or last year? I mean,
when they had Wiseman, that group. Yep.
He started to recruit without those guys. So listen, he doesn't need those guys to recruit these kids. I think for the young bunch of kids, the age of kids he's recruiting, I think he's the most interesting of all of them. Like Larry Brown is old. He's done it before. He's been around the block. And Rasheed Wallace, why it's cool, and I'm sure kids watch YouTube videos of him, like the last time he played was 2013. If you're 14 to 17 years old, that's 6 to 9 years ago or you're 6 to 9 years old. Some of these kids don't care about Rasheed Wallace. Like, I'm just not convinced that any of these kids care. Penny is different because Penny was cool. You got little Penny. You had the brand. It's still somewhat interesting. And again, I just think like they're going there for Penny, and they're going there because they've started to have this success. And I think he's trying to turn it into like the next Kentucky. But I don't know that I don't know that Sheed and Larry Brown have all that much of an effect on kids going there.
All right, I love that you mentioned Kentucky. I'll get to that in a second here. Little Penny was longer ago than Sheed playing, though.
I know, but it's still like at least somewhat entertaining and interesting. Like there's something they could find that.
But Rasheed Wallace is Mr. Ball Don't Lie. I think the wave of recruits they're currently going to go after will know him better for that phrase that has lived on well beyond his playing career is Ball Don't Lie. I'm with you.
I'm not sure those kids know it's from him. Like they probably are out there saying it and have no idea where it came from.
Well, then, kids, we need to educate ourselves.
Sure.
Google is an easy way to find things. You mentioned YouTube. Let's go. If you don't know who is the originator of Ball Don't Lie, you need to read up on Sheed. I think the Kentucky, I love that you brought up Kentucky, because I think what Penny is doing here, Ash, is not to try to get that #1 recruiting class in the country simply because of somebody like James Wiseman. I think he wants a collection of one-and-doners year after year after year. And it may only translate, I'm going to say one national title over time. And look, at Memphis, my goodness, if I said you're going to win one in the next 40 years, they would take it. Remember, Cal only has one at Kentucky, but he gets the one-and-dones year after year after year. He gets those first-round picks year after year after year. I think Penny is looking at that and deciding, you know what, we may not win a national championship, but I'm going to bring NBA guys in because somebody who's 16, their mom and dad watched Rasheed Wallace. Their mom and dad know Larry Brown won a title with the Pistons. Their mom and dad understand that if my kid's going to get to the NBA, maybe this is the best path for them. And I shouldn't just put it on the parents. I think the kids will understand that too. You got a bunch of NBA guys on your staff. They're going to help me get to the league. That's what I ultimately want. I think if you're 16, 17 years old, I don't think we're dreaming anymore about winning a national championship. I think we're dreaming about the NBA. And oh, by the way, more immediately, I'm dreaming about how can I make some darn money when I'm in college with the NIL rule? Can Sheed get me an endorsement? Sign me up. So I think kids are now going to look at it and say, bunch of NBA guys on this staff, they're going to help me get to that next level. They understand how to market themselves because they did it. Maybe they can help me do it while I'm in college, even if it's for only 1 year.
Yeah, and I think when you start talking about NIL, I think you're right. They probably are plugged in different places than a lot of other people would be. I'm not sure that people are out on winning national titles anymore. Like, these guys are some of the best players in high school, and they have been for their whole lives on any team they've ever played in.
Yep.
You're telling me you want to go to Memphis and you're going to say, like, they're going to take last year Memphis team as what it was. No, like those kids don't want to go to a bad team and lose, even if they're going to be drafted high in the NBA. Like, those kids want to win. They're good basketball players. They want to win. I'm not saying you have to win a title, but you can't be bad.
Yeah, I mean, Ben Simmons went 1 overall, didn't make the tournament.
Yeah.
Markelle Fultz went 1 overall, didn't make the tournament. There's another example too I'm forgetting now recently. And I shouldn't use Simmons and Fultz because those guys can't shoot in the NBA. It's a problem. But there is a history of hey.
Yeah. I like that a guy like
excuse
me. A guy like Cade Cunningham went somewhere different. Like, Cade Cunningham went to Oklahoma State, and that's cool because he helped bring the level of that team up. And for the first time in forever, people were talking about Oklahoma State basketball. That to me is pretty cool. I enjoy that. Even if you're not winning a national title, you're getting a team to the tournament and people are now talking about that program. And you can still go number one. If you're good enough to go number one, you're good enough to go number one at LSU or Oklahoma State or Stanford or Memphis. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. I like Sam here. How many games will she get kicked out of? King of the technical foul. Yeah, you're right about that, Sam. Hey, speaking of technical fouls, let me just detour really quickly here. Did you see or hear what Kevin Durant and Draymond Green, another king of technical fouls, had to say about the breakup of the Warriors? I'll use the word dynasty here. Mm-hmm. Did you see what they said on Draymond Green's show, podcast?
Airing the dirty laundry.
We're calling it. Yeah.
Placing blame, airing the dirty laundry a little bit.
So we had known for quite a while that, you know what, Durant's getting out of Golden State because he and Draymond know. What's so interesting to me is that 2 years before they blew up at each other in a huddle on the sideline of a game, Draymond was the guy who really recruited KD from Oklahoma City to Golden State. And then we start hearing the rumors that, okay, Durant's leaving because of Draymond Green. And they had that blow up that was very well publicized. And it just felt like the relationship devolved that, you know what, they might still win another title. And they may have, in fact, done that if Durant and Klay Thompson had stayed healthy against the Raptors. But it didn't happen. And you knew Durant was going to leave anyway after that year. And it had a very last dance feel to it that, like, hey, no matter how this ends, it's going to be the end. So KD and Draymond get together. Remember, they played, obviously, with Team USA in Tokyo. Then they get together. Huh?
I mean, which is ridiculous. Like, we're just talking about this. I'm like, well, they played together in Tokyo.
And now they're cool. You know, they get together on Dre's pod. But what I thought was interesting here is not so much what Durant said, because he's not going to play for Steve Kerr ever again. But what Draymond said, knowing that is his head coach. That is his general manager. And both guys said, yeah, it was the two of us butting heads, but the fact that management and head coach never really addressed it, never just kind of, like you said, aired the dirty laundry, brought it to light. Hey, let's address this thing in the room as men. That never happened. That then I think it just kind of grew and grew and grew and made it a very stressful, tense-filled situation with the Warriors as they tried to win a third straight title.
Yeah, and this is the thing. Like, for all the stuff that Steve Kerr is good at, you would think that he would kind of be a good mediator and a good guy, because he's seemingly been that in the past for this team. Any team that wants to be a dynasty, you have to know that's what you're getting into. Like, you've got LeBron and D-Wade and Chris Bosh. You've got those big three. Those are all big personalities who want the ball, who feel like they would need a lot of money to play. Like, it's a lot to handle, but that is kind of your job, is, like, for lack of a better word, to babysit these guys and to make sure they play nice and get along. And, like, when they don't play nice and get along, you can't just ignore it, because when everybody in the world is talking about it, you're just going to ignore it and hope it didn't happen. If it happens, just, get them together, sit them in a room, talk it out, clear the air, let's go.
But I think part of the problem is what is in your statement there is that these coaches are babysitters in a lot of instances. Now, we're not calling Steve Kerr that. We might call Steve Nash that. But I think with Kerr and that Warriors team, like, you bring in another superstar like Durant, this becomes his team in a lot of ways. You have Curry and Thompson and Draymond. There are personalities on this team. There are MVPs on this team. I think unless you are constantly the voice, the overriding voice in a huddle or in a locker room, it's difficult then to insert yourself into a situation where there's a lot of drama the way there would have been with Durant and Green. I'm not letting Kerr off the hook here.
Right.
But I think maybe Durant and Green fail to understand that. Like, this is a players' league. It became a players' team. And maybe Kerr was no longer in a position where he felt like he could really grab control of the situation. I don't know.
But that's part of the job description.
Yeah.
I mean,
Jay,
it has become part of the job description.
Jay's cleaning me up here. Anthony Edwards. Yes. Thank you. Is the other number 1 overall pick. I was forgetting, who just didn't have a successful win-loss college career. Yep. He's an absolute.
But again, he was a Georgia guy, right?
Yeah.
I love that he went to Georgia. Like, that to me is cool. I enjoy that. It's not joining up with Kentucky, where you're not going to, it's become clear that just because you have a bunch of one and dones, you're not necessarily going to win anyway. So why not be different and go to your home state school? That's a cool thing. And whether you win or not, even if you just get to the tournament, like, that's pretty cool.
Speaking of playing basketball in your home state, good work there, Ash. Video of me playing horse against an 8 instead of 6-year-old twins coming up next here on Honorado and Bagnardi.
Happiness is found in simple things. The sun on your face, sharing laughs, at the campground, getting wet, relaxing together, the love of family. There's never been a better time to go outside and play. Alpenhaus Pool Spa Boat and RV, bringing families together and creating memories since 1964.
And now, back to Honorado and Bagnardi. Brought to you by Alpenhaus.
All right, here we go. Home stretch of the show. We'll share some funny video with you, and we'll also just let's do a little housekeeping here. Sam's a fan. Spot on, Ash. Might have to make her a permanent part of the show. We'll have to negotiate that, Sam. You know how that goes. Can't do things for free around here. Adam's a big fan too. Preach. Yep, you know it. And I'm gonna. Nicole, I think, is saying that you should be part of like a more permanent part of the show here. Take several seats on the show. I'm not sure.
She wants you out.
Yeah, I don't think she's telling you to sit down. I think she's saying take over some seats on this show. I certainly wouldn't disagree with that. All right. So while Bags is in Aruba, Ash and I got away for a couple of days, middle of the week, to hang out with some friends of mine from New Jersey who were part of our wedding. And one of them, Bill, has
get that line out of here.
2 kids. I'm going to work on it here. Stand by. He's got 3 kids. Let me bring that back. I hate to just let that be lost without the setup. This is us playing horse. This could be the clinching shot, and I bury it. Underhand. The kids are losing their minds because they know they're about to lose. You're up after us. And by the way, this is video shot by an 8-year-old. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, good video work.
But this was a lot of fun, beating up on kids who had no chance in a game of horse. It really made me feel good about myself, and I needed that. Thank you very much. You were close on that shot, though.
She didn't shoot that well, so you didn't see it. That's good.
Yeah.
Chris wins.
And then, this is something they don't teach you when you're 8 years old, but what we call in the industry the hero shot, the then reaction, the celebration, and she continued shooting the video. So this was a lot of fun with Bill and his wife, Melissa, and their 3 kids. It was cool to hang out with them for a little bit.
We played outdoor horse, indoor horse, knockout. We played every basketball game you could think of. Yeah. Yeah. It was a good trip home for me. Like I said earlier in the show, hadn't been back in Glen Rock in 7.5 years, something like that. Drove by the old house where I grew up, where my parents used to live. And it was a good time to then catch up with my buddy, Brian Hirschberg, as well. So we've had a productive week here in terms of seeing some people we don't usually get to spend a lot of time with. Yeah. Too bad the weather stinks today. Woo. Yeah, it would have been a track day for us. But really all that means is if I don't go to the track, I'll actually save a little bit of money. So that's not right, because we'll lose if we bet. Thing in the world that I might actually get to do some of that. Can you hear Rue next door? I think he can hear us. Can you hear the dog barking?
No.
Yeah, I think he can. I think he can hear like through the walls or something because he's going crazy. He's been going crazy for the last 10 minutes.
We're also dog sitting for part of the week. Our neighbor's dog Rue, who if Ash had him right, you could pop him up on screen. He's this tiny little dog,
but he's not here. But he can apparently hear us. I thought you might be able to hear him.
Well, I know you'll rescue him soon. The way we started the show here was what the Yankees had been doing so well, and that is climbing the standings here. I'm not yet ready to change. Look, I'm never going to. They could have a 5-game lead and have clinched a playoff spot, and I'm still going to stubbornly say, no, they won't make the playoffs because I have to somehow find a way to win this bet with Bagnardi. But I mean, look, the more and more this goes, and especially a series with Minnesota here, there's an opportunity for your Yanks, Ash, to really make some headway.
Yep, and they need to. Like I said, that Minnesota series, because it's 4 games, is huge because you need to give yourself a little bit of a buffer when you're going to face teams like the Braves for 2 games, then the A's for 4 games. You got to give yourself a little bit of breathing room, knowing that you're not going to just steamroll through those series. You're not going to win as many of those games as you would against, the other teams, whether it's in your division or just teams who are below 500. So that's a huge series for them, especially being at home.
Unfortunately, the Atlanta series is in Atlanta. Otherwise, I might try to drag you there. I love this here. Did you hear about the baseball joke? The pitch is a 2-2. 2-2 count.
Jack is he's a good jokester. He's got some really good ones. Love it, Jack. Thank you. You can comment along with us all show long, whether you're watching on Facebook or Twitter. We will find your comments. We love the interaction. We thank you for doing that. If you're watching us on a Thursday, if you're watching us on Saturday on my 6:30, and you're seeing these comments pop up, this is how you become part of the conversation, is jump in on a Thursday morning on the News Channel 13 Facebook or Twitter page. Comment along, share your thoughts, ask us questions. We're happy to answer them all. And you'll find us 10 a.m. on Thursday mornings. I have not had a chance to get to this with Bagnardi yet, but I'll ask you, since you would have a little more influence over the fashion with me. Have you seen this? This is J. Crew. And actually, I saw it this week in pants. Guys are now buying jeans with paint splattered on it, or faux paint, the way you'd buy jeans that are already ripped. Would you ever buy a sweatshirt that had the paint splattered look on it? What if I showed up one day at home wearing this thing? You wouldn't, because I know you. But no. First of all, it could be bleach. That could be anything. It looks ridiculous. I'll make you that shirt. I'll throw some bleach or some paint on a sweatshirt and we'll call it a day. You don't have to pay $50, $60 for it. Forget it. We'll take it to Ben. We'll take it to the Van Eerden brothers and just have them toss it around while they work all day painting walls, and then I'll bring it home to you. Yeah. That's okay. I just, sometimes I just think to myself, really, is this what we're doing now? Ridiculous. Clothing that looks like it's already had paint splattered on it. I mean, look, the ripped jean thing, I wasn't ever going to get into. I understand why people do it. It's a look, but the paint splattered clothing, our guy Chris says ridiculous. What do they charge? They charge a lot, Chris. Let me tell you something. I love J. Crew clothing. They charge enough for something that doesn't have paint on it. So imagine what they would charge that is paint altered in a way. Too much. All right, this has been a lot of fun, Ash. Thanks for hanging out for Shawnee. Bags is back as we get closer to football season. You've been watching Honorado and Bagnardi right here on the News Channel 13 Facebook page and on My 4.